Hey, what's up, fam? It's your boy Darren Brown with Darmac Builders. I am the builder and waiting on inspection today. But what I really want to talk to you guys about before I get into more construction is about generational wealth, specifically to the African American community out there. Um, One thing that I have found out is that we talk about generational wealth. We want it. We want to pass it down. But the hardest thing about generational wealth is being the one who actually starts it, right? You're not if you're not from a family that you're four generations in to your family's success, then you're actually starting it, and that's one of the hardest things to do because you have to convince people of your game plan, right? You got to convince people this is what you're doing, and you have to be unselfish about, hey, it's not about me. It's got to be something that's going to have to live after me, right? You can talk about the Kennedys, the Fords, the Rockefellers, we can go on and on with the names, and you can see that we know who the founders were, but now you can see the generations, great nephews and nieces and uncles and this, that, and the other that's kind of have benefited from the hard work of the founders, right? So you got to, as African Americans, I mean, I don't want you to get discouraged because you're behind the eight ball because from the very beginning, we were dealt a bad hand, right? So when you take a group of people and you enslave them, and you have another group that can really benefit from the fruits of our labor and whatever this country has to provide as far as the land, the businesses, and things like that, and you don't have a choice, then you're gonna be behind the eight ball because a generation is basically 30 years. So if you were in slavery and 60 years or 90 years pass by, that's two or three generations that you had no opportunity to build your empire for your family. Whereas the rest of the people in this country were able, whether they failed or succeeded, had the opportunity to build up their wealth and pass it on to their children and pass it on to their children. The only thing that we were able to pass on is survival. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, don't do this, don't do that, and work this and work that because we weren't able to read or write or comprehend or anything like that. We weren't able to buy any land or stuff like that. So as time goes on, right? If you talk about 240 years, that's what, 8 generations? And so if you have 8 generations where you have no opportunity to do anything, okay? Just imagine going to a store and there's nothing on the cupboard. There's nothing that you can do. So it's going to be a hard task. So with all that being said, we have to continue to work and to do the things that we have to do in today's time, okay? Opportunity is still there, but where some people may have 8 generations of wealth, you may be starting the first, okay? And then your children is going to be the second one. And so you have to kind of like set those ground, that ground floor opportunity for them, all right? Um, yeah, I mean, so for me, it's always not about me. It's about, okay, who's coming after me, right? Who's that group coming after me, and who can take it to the next level, and they can talk about your grandfather, they can talk about your grandmother, they can talk about that kind of thing and how you started it and how they taken the baton and gone for it. You like I said, you talk about J.P. Morgan. When you see it on a thing, look about the history of J.P. Morgan. Okay, you just look at it. Okay, the Kennedys. Some of these Kennedys, and they got their names probably changed through marriage and stuff like that, but they still a Kennedy at the end of the day. So, you got Vanderbilt out there. You got all these guys out there that has started things, and you get confused because names has changed, and women have gotten married and they've taken the names of their husbands, and so therefore you don't really get a chance to see the last name because it's not a Ford name, it's not a Rockefeller name, you know. Uh, like Maria Shriver, she's a Kennedy, right? But her Shriver, right? or Schwarzenegger if you want to call that, but I think Derek got it done. But my point is that with African Americans, I mean, even though we were dealt a bad hand, and we were, um, because when we came here, when we were brought over here, um, against our will, basically, we were stripped of everything. We were stripped of our language, right? English is not our first language, so when you are giving nothing and expect to do everything, right? And deal with that mental anguish and that mental pain and that the fear that is brought upon you if you did try to better yourself. It takes a toll. And what happens? You are a product of your environment, and so your children is going to pick up that same kind of tension, fear, those behavior. We talk about it today. You're a product of your environment. And it didn't change back then. So we're just living in a society right now where we have to change the narrative as far as how we present ourselves and how we conduct ourselves, and understanding money, finances, and things like that. Because again, there's over 300 years, maybe 400 years, where we weren't taught all this stuff. So some of the things I don't really blame people for, but what I do blame you for if you do not correct it, because you must correct the things that you don't know, and you must investigate the things that you do know. And if you want to change your narrative and you want your children's life to be different, then you're going to have to do things in order to teach, because they're going to follow your footsteps. They're going to follow your path. You hope that they can make it better exponentially. I mean, one of the things we can talk about now, look at Sam Walton. Look at Walmart. You see what I'm saying? That's generational wealth. You're talking about the Mars family. That's generational wealth. We can go on and on and on. And we can say that, okay, we didn't have the opportunity. I get it. We didn't. But again, we have to do what we can with what we have, right? Like I said, we should be speaking 3 or 4 languages. Any other culture that comes over here, they're never told that they cannot speak their language. They come over here, you come from a Latin community, you're going to speak Spanish, okay? Or some form of it. If you come from Italy, you're going to speak Italian. You're going to speak, and you're going to learn English. But when we were brought over here, we were, threatened and killed because we spoke our native tongue. And because one of the reasons for that was they didn't want us to be talking where they didn't understand, because that was a sign of you could be conspiring against them, right? You can be conspiring against your masters. Just think about it right now. When you're around people and they speak their native tongue and you don't understand, you thinking like, oh man, are they talking about me? Are they saying something bad about me or whatever? No, they could be saying stuff on themselves. But the idea that they could be saying something has entered your head. Therefore, you be like, whoa. Well, just imagine if you bring a group of people over here forcefully and you own them, and obviously they don't like it, and they're speaking their native tongue. What are you going to do? You're going to punish them if they're speaking their native tongue, and force them to speak the language you know. Okay, and so for a generation, maybe that went in for maybe 2 generations, which is 60 years, that the generation starts speaking their native tongue, and then their kids grow up, and their kids speak the language that their parents were taught to speak. So we can get real, or we can just be here for shits and giggles. But I'm just letting you know that generational wealth is not easy, because you're trying to convince people that is in your present that this is what you're trying to create, and then on top of that, you're trying to be unselfish of it and not say, okay, I'm just going to do everything I want to do and not do anything else to leave anything behind. So the grind is real. You gotta keep at it. Keep listening to my videos. I'm trying to give you guys some insight, because I want to see you guys prosper. I want to see you guys excel. I want to see you guys do very well, because there's opportunity amongst many. If you don't share your ideas, if you don't network, if you don't open yourself up, take off the heavy load off your shoulders to the point where you can share ideas, build up investment groups, or social gatherings that's talking about finance and real estate. You may not be in a position to do anything right now, but just having that language and understand the dialogue and understand what needs to be done will not hurt you. In fact, it will help you. And so I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. I'm going to continue to teach you everything I know about construction on my videos and what I would do. I'm going to bring some humor into it, some comedy into it, some levity into it. And I'm just going to try to teach you as much as I know. And when it comes on to financing and investing and things like that, I'm going to teach you everything I know. But I want you guys to also be frugal enough to investigate yourself, do your due diligence, teach others and so forth. Because, yes, I get it. African Americans, we got a raw deal. I get it. 100%. Nobody can have an art conversation with me. Nobody can, tell me, my parents came over here, whatever, but your parents were not slaves. Okay, let's go with that one for a moment. They were not slaves, okay? They came over here and maybe they were poor and maybe they wanted a different, a start. That's different when somebody owns you, okay? Let's go with that, because I hear that a lot. Well, my grandparents came over here with nothing. I wish that was the case. I wish poverty was the only thing that African Americans had to deal with. Because if that was the only thing and we was able to keep our language, we was able to, you can not like us, right? You can not like us, but we was able to buy land, we was able to do something when we first set foot on American soil, I'll be cool with it. Because I know in doing those journey, we're gonna be fine. Now here I am probably speaking 3 or 4 languages. Just being real. So please don't give me the narrative that you came over, your grandparents or everybody came over here and they was poor. I don't want to hear that one. That's no comparison. Because nobody took anything from them. Okay? I'm talking about in this country now. I'm not talking about where you probably came from. I'm talking about in this country. So that's my banter for today. I hope you guys understand and listen, keep watching, and I see you when I see you. Peace.